Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Serbia Expo 2020 podcast. Very glad you've come back to us after enjoying our first episode. We're going to try and keep this in the same kind of format. And we're bringing you our resident local genius in the music and innovation world. Later on today, at one of the Expo festival stages, Slobodan Trkulja and his band in Balkanopolis is going to be doing a spectacular performance, and Slobo is here to talk to me about it today and about the progression that got you here as a musician as well. So, firstly, welcome.
Thank you. It's fantastic to be here.
When did you arrive?
Late last night, out of the snowy Serbia.
And into the... Actually, it's not so warm here. It's when we first started setting this up, it was 52 degrees and absolute hell. But
my God.
Yeah, so it's a little better now. But this isn't your first expo you've played at, right?
No, I've actually had the pleasure of performing in Nagoya in 2005. It was one concert, and in 2010, Balkanopolis was scheduled in Shanghai Expo, and we gave 8 concerts.
Wow.
Like 2 per evening for 4 days, and we attracted around 31,000 visitors, like people in the crowd, and it was officially like the biggest crowd that any artist in Expo that year reached. So we came back victorious.
That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about the Chinese market a bit later on, because I think it's quite an interesting thing in terms of music export generally. So that was Shanghai. What is the plan for this week? Tomorrow night is the big one on the Expo stage. World Beats. Yeah. What's the show called?
The show is called Warriors of Light.
Warriors of Light.
It's kind of metaphor, because for me, music is what music brings life to people, and for me, the sound energy is actually the energy of life, and we all perceive life as light. So somehow like bringing this good mood and bringing positive energy is the reference actually.
And when we spoke about it originally, when you were first talking about it, you were talking about this kind of balance between light and dark and the kind of European myth. And is that all still something that you're going to try and put into this show, or has it changed since we first had the discussion?
Well, of course, we came with a very grandiose idea of
course.
What else?
Of course.
It's Serbia. Like, how can it be any different? There is no difference. It has to be the biggest, the best.
Yes, of course.
Look, I brought the moon. I shrank the moon. It's like, we of course, this is a festival slot, and we have 1 hour. Possibly 1 hour, 10 minutes to perform. So we have adapted to certain conditions that were set since we're in this format. But nevertheless, regardless of that, we are preparing quite a show for tomorrow for the Jubilee stage.
And it's on the Jubilee stage. Your slot starts at 6, I think, right? The show starts at 5, but you're on from 6.
We're on from 6.
And then there's another show this evening on the Pavilion, which
the one on the Pavilion is actually also the one that we are looking forward to. In front of Serbian Pavilion, we have more time to play. And being grounded for a year and 9 months felt really unnatural. I mean, we've been into music and we've been playing, and so all this energy has been building up. Yeah, now tonight it's just going to be a blast.
And so the production process, the creative process during the time of COVID, how was that affected? Was it, what was there anything different about producing this show from a normal show because of COVID rules?
Well, I can tell you about the production cycle last year, when the whole thing began, and so everything is cancelled. We had 20 concerts scheduled in China, which were cancelled beginning of the last year, and it was like 2020, 20 concerts cancelled. Okay, is there any other 20 thing that can happen? It was strange, but it was also good in a way, because when you're a touring musician and you travel a lot, you don't get to see your family so much. And I miss my family.
And your kids are young as well, right?
My kids are young. My kids are young. They're from 6 till 11. And I miss them. And now, like all these ordinary things that every parent which is home can do, I can do as well. So last year was about that, and a fantastic summer this year as well. So this family life has never been better. And but I'm a musician. This is what I do. This is also a huge part of me, and my family knows this. So everybody was like really happy when finally we got a chance to perform and go. And
but how do you then rehearse in a time of COVID? I mean, did you take to Zoom?
Online. We take Zoom and your part, my part, and
you really did that?
No. I mean, I'm not really. I'm not getting used to this Zoomy thing and vibe and social.
So when we talk about modern
and
tradition, you're not quite at the modern yet.
No, I'm way more modern than this. It's when I was a kid, I was imagining that one day I will give a concert. I was a kid, mind you. Mm-hmm. I was imagining I will one day give a concert, and in one place, and there will be hologram projections of my concert on some other places. So I will book 10 venues around the world, and we will do hologram concerts live from whatever, from a castle in Serbia. So from castle in Serbia, live to you by hologram projections. But at that time, of course, that was like science fiction. Wasn't possible at all. Whilst the time that we live in now, holograms are becoming
Expo 2025. I think if we start planning now, we might just get the budget for it. We'll have to ask nicely.
Rehearsing like online doesn't really work. So we met, we exchanged ideas. There's a lot of studio work, kind of, so everybody does their part. But being together.
Do you have a studio at your house?
Yeah, just like a working space. It's not like a proper studio, but for it's kind of a workstation thing.
Okay.
And being together now on the roads, like my sound engineer last night, we are working together for 15, 16 years. We've traveled so many places, and like all over the globe. And we're pushing those trolleys. We just arrived to Dubai airport, and getting out and getting to the van. And he looks at me and says, "Dude, we're on the road again." It's like, yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
And I mean, Dubai, this place is like, it's.
Have you had a chance to look around?
Yeah, not as much as I would like to,
yeah.
But I've seen some things which are really incredible, and I love our pavilion. This place is like amazing.
So, I mean, I'm going to just naturally take us into being a Serbia Creates ambassador, and your sense of how things like this, things like your performance, things like the digital meta-human that we're sort of shape in a new way how Serbia is perceived internationally. I mean, you must have seen changes over the years yourself anyway, from the first days you started touring as a musician to how Serbians are perceived now. What do you think about that? What do you think about the way that a pavilion and Serbia's presence at a thing like Expo can change how the nation is perceived and open opportunities?
Well, this falls under the cultural diplomacy, and it is the best version of cultural diplomacy that one can have. I can testify to the professionalism of people who are working for this pavilion and who have been booking and organizing, and the program, and everything is organized just perfectly. It's like people who have been chosen to do this are spot on. I know, and I can tell, because we have history of appearing at Expo in previous years, and that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is actually that the platform, the national platform called Serbia Creates, which I'm a creative ambassador or cultural ambassador, has taken some extraordinary steps in the past. Has it been 3-4 years already?
Nearly 4 years.
Nearly 4 years. And these steps are really showing results already. I mean, I actually thought, I knew these are good steps, but I thought the results would come way later.
Yeah, I think we did too. So yeah, we were given the opportunity to take over the running of the pavilion and craft the story in a clear and functional way.
Yeah.
My experience has always been that we try and tell too many stories, and this has been a very good way to kind of focus the mind. But I was interested in your thinking about it, since obviously your your sort of music term for of the music you produce is what is it?
Modern tradition. Yeah.
And what we've tried...
It's kind of an oxymoron.
But what we've tried to do here is exactly the same. We've taken the story of Vinča and presented it in a very modern way as a gateway to discuss modern Serbia.
Yes.
But tell me more about this concept of modern tradition and where it came from, what influenced it. When did that first idea come to you that, oh my God, this is what I'm doing?
It came out of my love towards the traditional music, to which I was drawn to when I was a kid. I just heard some recordings of some people playing bagpipes, some traditional instruments, and the energy of the music was like incredible. It was nothing that I have ever heard before. Whilst at the same time, I had Michael Jackson albums at home and listening to Earth, Wind and Fire and Blood, Sweat and Tears and albums of Montreux Jazz Festival, Newport Jazz Festival. We had, I mean, my dad is like a collectioner, you know, he got so many things. We had so many good music at my home. Some of the music I hated when I was a kid. And then when I grew up, learning saxophone, you come back to the album and you realize the thing that you hated is the one that you love now the most. It's like John Coltrane playing Giant Steps live on some jazz festival. You know, it's like, wow, this is what I was listening to when I was a kid. It was too complicated then, but then eventually you get into it. But basically, I had the problem because there was like a huge gap between one music that I liked and the other music that I liked. There was like no binding tissue.
And I would imagine that, like, how do you, folk instruments,
traditional,
get bottled into this compartment.
Yeah, and they put them in museums, and it's like, this is what used to be. No, you're giving up the best part of your culture.
But also, I mean, what amazed me about the performance that I came to see of yours was exactly what you're talking about, how these historic traditional instruments bring so much energy.
Yeah,
I mean, because you would just never really believe it, you know, because you're led to believe that stuff that little old men play at the and suddenly
that used to be, but we changed that now.
Boom coming onto the stage, a bagpipe, for goodness sake.
Yes, bagpipe has the energy of a punk guitar.
Yeah. Well, they will be seeing that, I hope. For the next
they will.
shows.
I mean, I'm even using, you know, it's like. As I said, there was a huge gap, and I just had to bring these worlds close somehow because I did not want to give up on any of them. I love symphonic music. I'm like a huge fan of Romanticism, of Rachmaninoff. The second piano concerto is like my favorite. I mean, I put this and I'm traveling through universe. So how do you combine this with traditional instruments, with like punk music that you also like, with rock music, with pop music, with like, you know, Michael Jackson flashy costumes and stuff? It's like that doesn't exist. Okay, but let's make it, because in my mind that was vivid and it was real and it was happening, and I had all these sounds mixed up. But you cannot. When you're young, when you're a kid, I mean, it takes a lot of organizing to get the symphonic orchestra, to get the guitar player which plays this kind of rock music, to record it in a proper orchestra, proper studio, to get all this, to learn all these instruments in a proper way so you can present them not in a traditional style of playing, but with traditional style, but something of your own. So it took years. It took almost a decade, maybe two, to really make it as natural as possible. And we came with the term modern tradition because there was nothing else. It's not ethnic music, it's not world music.
Yes.
World music is also too broad of a term for me. Modern tradition is kind of explaining both, because it is both. It is one world made of both sounds. And I always had this big sound, like arena kind of approach sound when we were making songs, because I always imagined a lot of people are going to listen to it, and we should play on big stages, and this is what the sound is. This is the expression of my inner world.
You were mad when you started saying that this is what you wanted to do?
It was first, of course, everybody thought I couldn't fit in socially when I was talking about these things. That was obvious.
They see your lips moving.
But there was like, okay, Slobodan with his stories again. There was one thing. The other part was like when I didn't have like proper music school, like primary music school, secondary music school. education. I went to gymnasium, lyceum, I think it's a gymnasium, when I was 14. And I'm the dude in the class playing bagpipes like nobody cares. Like, you know, so okay, so I brought him once, I played the bagpipes and everybody was like, okay, let's not do this again. No, you know, it's not really, it's not helping your social life, you know. And then I picked up the guitar.
But you taught yourself to play?
Yeah. There was nobody to learn from. There were people that were giving me recordings, but there was no like teacher with technique, like fingers here, fingers there.
Even for the bagpipes?
No, there was nobody.
Wow.
There was nobody. There are people who can play something, but it's the way I'm quick, and what they show me, what I see.
But you also
them
taught
play,
yourself
I
things like
quickly
classical
develop and go
clarinet as well, right?
No. I had 1 year of formal classical education when I was 11 years old. That ended up when I was 12 and a half. I ended up going on my own furthermore, and I did, however, go to jazz conservatory after the gymnasium because I understood that I'm lacking like the basic knowledge and the harmony and etc. So jazz and traditional music from Serbia, they mix well because it's all about expression, it's all about freedom of improvising new sounds, etc. So in that sense, that was really helpful. But apart from that, that was it. Everything else was discovering on my own and taking different routes, different sounds. I ended up actually using all these traditional instruments, and I actually just got, right on the day before we arrived here, 3 more instruments that arrived from Crete to my home, to new babies that I have ordered. So are
these traditional instruments like fairly common to the region? Is that?
These instruments are part of the same sound.
Okay.
I mean, we belong to the eastern part of the world. Let's call it like that. And I would even call Eastern Roman Empire. Serbia is on the border. We are west to the east and we are east to the west, you know. But basically, our music has way more connections and like the direct roots to the east than maybe to the traditional music of Hungary or traditional music of certain other Western Central European
you know this,
countries.
But with the digital metahuman, the Lipinski Vir culture, they can tell from the genetics, from the DNA that they've been out, that it was made up of 2 cultures that merged, one from the east and one from the west.
Okay, that explains a lot.
Which, and this becomes the foundation community of all of the things that we're used to in the West in particular, like the village and the family and the village square. And so it would make sense that if we've got histories, stories traveling through, it would make sense that the resonance of the sounds also stick.
Yeah, makes sense.
But how I understand that you've done a lot of work in China. How do audiences with a completely different tradition, how do they manage to embrace something like this?
For me, first it was a shock because our first concerts were in Expo 2010. Packed, so many people. We set the record, we came to China, we were like, okay, top of the world, we are going to tour China, we're going to travel. And then 5 years, nothing happened. There's no phone calls, no emails, okay, we made an impression, but there's no follow-up. And then slightly in 2015, it started picking up with some smaller concerts, open air things, and eventually year by year it just grew, and we ended up playing on television programs and some big festivals, and there was a reportage on their CCTV, which was viewed by 300 million people. one show was viewed by 1 billion people, and I'm like, okay.
If they would just spend $1 on a
dime. A dime is fine. Let's be modest. Let's be modest.
Okay,
One dime would be okay. But it's completely incredible. And then at one moment it hit me. China is a country with millenniums of tradition. They kept it, they preserved it, they cherish it. No matter what the system is, and if it was an empire or if it's the way this country is structured now, they know who they are, and they have very strong national identity. So countries with their own tradition and respect for their tradition, they see beauty in other traditions as well. And I think it's the same with...
And they're not threatened by it, I suppose.
No, why should they be? It's wonderful thing to see. I come here in Dubai and I see, there's a prayer time so many times per day, and for me it's wonderful. I'm trying to be a devoted Christian. I'm Orthodox Christian by denomination, is that the word? And that these people here, they're praying together at the same time. I mean, prayer is a great thing. Prayer is a good thing. I mean, we all, as MC Hammer would say, we need to pray just to make it today. It's just a statement, but in essence, the prayer is all about bringing love to yourself. First of all, accepting yourself for who you are, and then also accepting other people with all the differences, with all the different things that they do. We don't even need to agree on certain things, but I can have my opinion, you can have your opinion. I can have my way of speaking to God and devoting my life to Christ. People here, they have their way of devoting their life to God, and that's in essence what this is all about. And pretty soon this body is gonna go, we're all going someplace else, we're going to where the Maker will meet us. What's the point what differences do we have in general? I mean, all these things are not something that we should have a problem with. So yes, I have a great admiration for other cultures, for other traditions, Chinese people as well, and we have been accepted. Like there were moments where we were treated like Beatles. There was so much screaming at the end of the concerts, and it was like, I'm standing in front of the stage, and there's like people screaming. So I was just hugging them, all of them, because it's that kind of a feeling. I want to take them home. These are all my new friends, and they had the same feeling. So for me, this sharing of energy is something that I've really missed in the past.
And I was quite interested in that as well, because from our previous discussions, you are a kind of a homebod who doesn't really like crowds, and yet on the other hand, your performance career requires you to be this public persona, this how do you manage the energy differences of that? I mean, you could be at home with your kids and your dogs and your sheep, or two sheep, or you could be on a stage in front of millions of screaming Chinese fans. I mean,
but that's exactly what I always wanted.
Okay,
that's exactly what I always wanted. The energy at home is, I'm kind of protective. I'm a paterfamilias, I like to use this energy with my family, and we like to travel a lot. We engage into conversations a lot. We play games, make music, discuss things, whatever. But it's very energy consuming. This is not something that's like, you let it pass. I got 3 daughters, all 3 very energetic. Got a lovely wife that's putting up with me and with kids. So it's family life is very dynamic in my home. Whilst on the other hand, I mean, you want to avoid crowds when you are with your family. You kind of want to keep it simple. It's not always easy, but it's doable. But I'm also, how should I say this? Like, people back home, they don't treat me as a celebrity. They recognize me mostly, first of all because of my hair. You're the one that plays the instruments, In the past couple of years, it's been, they know the name, they know the music, they like the music, but it's never kind of a celebrity approach. People never approach me with, how can I have your autograph? So they come and, say like, hey, I love your music. And we chat a bit, and then we depart as, good buddies. And for me, this kind
maybe that's because Serbs are very cool.
Yeah.
cooler than us, right?
Yeah, well, possibly, but it's also I like this kind of a vibe. For me, this is homey vibe with everyone that I meet, and all these people that I meet, they're really wonderful people, and I can tell by the look when someone recognizes me and then looks at me, I know if they were on the concert or not.
Oh, really?
Because the look of people that were at the concert and felt that energy and then see me afterwards, now I can recognize it. I know. I mean, I can tell. It's weird, but I can. And I like that because we share something in common. My inner world that I have been keeping inside, not being able to explain. I mean, I was literally walking through the street and talking to myself, and people would meet me and say like, hey, boy, are you okay? You know, I just made this song, it sounds wonderful. Oh, when can we hear it? Well, you can't, it's still here, you know. Now, I used to have that, and I used to have all these visions about the costumes that we are gonna wear. And these costumes were really amazing. They were modern, but they were ancient at the same time. There was like an epic fantasy kind of a thing, but it was also futuristic.
But it seems like you've got those this time.
Yep.
Right?
Finally now for Expo.
I got a sneak peek of them the other day.
Yeah, I had it started already with one very like a black crazy costume made out of different parts. But it was very futuristic, kind of neo from Byzantium in 3,000 something year. Everybody's flying, and you know, you're like in this costume. But now we also managed to hit the spot with one of the other Serbia Creates ambassadors called Ivana Vasic. She's a lovely lady, crazy, completely crazy. I saw some of the things she did, and I was immediately like, oh, she's the one. We had one Zoom call. Okay, there we go. There was one, and I just knew that's it. I'm just going to send you the music. No. She gets it immediately. She knows.
I don't know if you know, she designed the staff uniforms there as well.
Yeah. I saw that. And I was thinking like, okay, I should have worn that. It wouldn't be me. It would be I would be her model. But okay, skip it. Let's go with.
Yeah, and she's designing stuff for the National Theatre at the moment. And
she's amazing. She's got amazing energy, and our exchanges of wittiness.
So lots of really black leather, crazy. I noticed.
There's blue leather as well. There's a lot of stitches. There's some silk underneath. There's the whole shabam. It's really it's incredible. So we're making the premiere of the costumes tonight.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And another question that was coming up is, so who have you played with? I mean, this is not. Although you're on the stage with a bunch of other artists, this is not. You're not going to be sharing the stage with anyone this time. But who have you shared the stage with before, and is there anyone that you would like to still?
The one that got away was Ennio Morricone.
Wow.
He was the one that I always thought like, but it was somehow, it was a huge age difference, and there was like in 1990 something, there was this Portuguese woman called she is still, thank God she's alive, but I've discovered her then album Lágrimas, The Tears, Dos Puentes. I was amazed with an album. It was modern tradition in its kind of a different way, using a Portuguese guitar and using strings, specific instruments, making a pop album but with traditional flavor. Then eventually afterwards Marisa was the one that came with a Portuguese fado that changed a bit. I had the pleasure sharing the stage with her several times. We even recorded a song which hasn't been released yet, but and also with Yorgos Dalaras, who was also a guest at one of the songs that I performed. I've been mostly playing with when it comes to orchestra, it's Metropole Orchestra from the Netherlands. It's one of the best orchestras in the world, as far as I'm concerned, because they are pop jazz orchestras. So they understand my thing really well because they are communicating with both sides. And we made 2 albums together, and the one that, this is the orchestra that in the past couple of years worked with Snarky Puppy, with Corey Wong, with Jacob Collier, with all these new upcoming future superstars. And to be part of that is kind of it's very humbling. And I was there, I played with these guys. It's like, wow. So we kind of Balkanopolis found its place in the world among musicians, among artists.
What is Balkanopolis? Where did that name come from?
I just made it up because there was no other name. There was not a word which would fit properly, because it's modern, so it's kind of a city, urban, but it's also traditional. Okay. So it's kind of a rural. So it's Balkan music, and then city, modern. Well, the Balkanopolis. There's Indiana and Indianapolis. The Balkanopolis. We're Balkanopolis, and I looked it up, and there was nobody with the name. And this was like 25 years ago.
Wow.
And it just stick. I mean, I just stick to it ever since because it just makes perfect sense, and it's actually perfect. Gives a perfect context for what we do because we're not binded by genre in any shape or form. I have taught my audience to expect unexpected. It can be acoustic, can be traditional, can be very epic sounding with the rock guitars and strings in the background. Can be very lyrical, emotional, longing. So any sound from the spectrum, I mean, wherever music takes me, I can go. So I think for me that was the most important thing because you end up playing 15 instruments, you get 5 more. You're good at playing them. I'm not the perfect clarinet player. I'm not the best in any. But what I do best is express my emotions and feelings on this instrument in the purest, clearest way. I mean, this is where it all comes from, and this is where I think my strength in music is, because technique will help you. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing to have it. But if this is lacking, there's no technique that can make music out of any song that you do. So in that sense, it's all from here that binds all this music together and all these genres. And I always wanted to go where my heart tells me to go. So whatever I feel in music that brings this energy out, that I will enjoy and that excites me, I can tell that it will excite the other people as well, because it's true. So you sort of discover it. You kind of ask for it to reveal itself to you. It's not about you making it. I'm not creating. We're just using what's already there. All these sounds. Yeah. It's like the melodies, the instruments, the tradition. It's part of who I am. Yes, and I'm passing it through. But also the sound as such, the music as such. You cannot grasp everything. You cannot know music. You can discover it and you can recognize it. So for me,
and you can feel it.
And you can feel it, and that's the way. So when there is a process of this music being discovered to me, it's very fragile process. So you always tend to, hold your breath.
Where do you discover new music for yourself? Where do you go for that?
There's so much good music these days. It's incredible. I mean, I'm
asking specifically because, like with film content, there is so much out there, but finding it and becoming therefore exposed to it. So are there like internet radio stations that you listen to? Are there music festivals that you specifically travel to go and experience? I mean, how do you get this stuff? Where does it come to you?
It finds me. Okay. It's very strange. I mean, I was looking for a proper lauto instrument or a lira like a Christian lira, and out of a sudden, I mean, there's this guy and he's making them. He's the one. I saw many, but this was the one. I just knew it, and next thing you know, in like a couple of months, the instruments are arriving at my home. But the music in general, I mean, internet is the place. I use Deezer for all these applications. YouTube not as much anymore, but there are always there's always music.
I guess the question was, so if for young people who are potentially interested in this kind of music, how do they get involved with it? Like you did, playing them yourself, getting hold of a bagpipes and practicing.
There's a thing which I kept in spite of so much the sheer capacity of the information of the music, of content which is on internet nowadays.
Overload.
It can be overwhelming, and we go back to my home and we have a situation where I'm of course in my little work place. I also tend to keep it away from me because I want to discover it in my own way. So for example, these new instruments that I got, for some time I'm not going to be listening to traditional players playing it. I want to have a relation with this instrument of my own.
Okay, amazing.
And want to see how we communicate. I had a chance when we were trying the costumes at Ivana's studio, just before the day before we departed. The instruments came with me. I took it from the customs and putting it in the car, taking them with me to the dress rehearsal. And so I'm in the dress rehearsal and I'm looking at instruments and going like, oh my god, okay, easy, my heart.
Slowly, tiger.
So torture. It was painful, But I'm in the costume. It's amazing, but the instruments are locked in the case, And I unpacked it, took it out, started playing it. It was horrible. Sound was like, no, that's not it. That's not okay. This is not it. This is not it. Okay, what are you telling me? You're telling me that I'm not supposed to. I understand now. Oh, did I hurt you? Sorry, I'll be gentle. So eventually, I ended up making some sound out of it.
That's so interesting though, because that's almost. I mean, you're like the whisperer of these instruments.
Every instrument. I mean, if a maestro takes this instrument, he will get the most amazing music out of it. I'm not maestro, and we don't have a relation yet. So the instrument has to teach me what to do and how to play on it. And it's a very humbling experience, because on some instruments my relation is like, ta-da! It's really strong and powerful. Goes 2 decades or 3 decades even back. Some instruments I'm playing already for 30 plus years. So relation with this instrument is like I imagine it and I blow air in it, and the music comes. I know exactly where to go and how to go. This is new. This is different. This is specific.
We've been working for the last few years with an event called World Minds, which comes to Belgrade. It's due to come next year, and it's really great scientists talking about what they're working on. And for me, I'd never thought of myself as a scientist. I flunked science at school. I was just
I can relate
not
to
interested in it, because nobody had ever explained to me that science was about the creative process of what if I do this. And essentially what you're talking about from music as well is
it's true.
Approaching music without being kind of fixed into the block of what you must do, and just going, what if I do it this way? And seeing what happens now. Which is, Serbia creates ideas. We're going to wrap it.
The root of this is curiosity.
Yes.
Every scientist, we're doing the same thing. None of the scientists made something. They have discovered something. Yes. Something which was already there.
Yes.
Before they realized it.
And they understood it and gave it back.
And they gave it back.
Yes.
So none of us is a creator. None of us is really making something. We're using what's out there and we're trying to understand what it is. Curious people, scientists, artists, they find their way. It takes years, takes decades, takes, and if I just did, a turn sooner, I would have ended up there and then something else would have happened. And then when you think about it, there's so many variables that influence the outcome in the end that it's incredible. So for me, the only thing I can do is just try to stay this way, be curious as I have been all these decades, and eventually, we end up here chatting in the studio while my boys are having a sound check outside and preparing for the show tonight. So this is for me. I'm definitely living the life that I've always dreamed of, and I'm very happy and grateful for this.
Well, Slobodan, thank you very, very much. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And you're preparing a magnificent show right downstairs as we speak. So I know you need to go and do sound check. So thank you very, very much.
Sound check time.
Sound check time.
It's been a while. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for coming. So, thank you very much to Sloba and to Balkanopolis. We're looking forward to their show at the Pavilion this evening, and particularly tomorrow at the Expo stage, Jubilee stage at 7 p.m. during the Tribal Beats concert. Thank you very much for joining us. We will be having more of these podcasts as we go on, with more interesting people talking about the fantastic things they're working on, all part of Serbia Creates Ideas. We hope you join us again. Thank you very much.